This trash container is locked. The sliding lid has a padlock that says, whirling in rags. With a well-oiled crack, the lock pops open. It shouldn't. Don't. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't. Of course you should. This is your time to shine, Hobo Cop. Dive into that dumpster for extra content. The smell of rotten food rises to greet you. You see soggy cartons, dirty rags, and organic waste.
We're just in time. This hasn't been emptied for over a week.
Wow, an Armistice caliber 50 knock cannon, half wrapped in paper tissues. So shiny. It's a giant rifle, and it's very expensive. Not as expensive as that fat string of pearls snaking around the rock. And is that Cordon Electric's preamp with Electra F2 tubes? It is. That catches quite a price. We're talking 12,000. That's too bad, because none of those things are actually in there. There's just food waste and crisp wrappings. All you see is a broken mug with a racist depiction of the Yellow Man, only in its social sensibility.
You've acquired an interactable item. Investigate this item further by going to the Interact tab in your inventory.
You see milk and egg rest with one broken egg in it. Some pasta wrapper. You've done this before. The movements are recorded in your elbows, the methodology in your fingers. You're used to this. A box falls into pieces in your hands. Batiste Soleil cereal. There are plastic pasta packages below, and turbo noodles. Among the threadbare kitchen towels, something catches your... As the legs of the slime-covered jeans begin to unspool from the garbage.
The victim's clothes? Cadaverine odor is faint. If these belong to the deceased, they were removed when he was still in the early stages of decay. Drop them in here, officer. Guitar-marked blue jeans. Pockets empty or emptied. He wore them with a belt, too, a white belt. The loops appear stretched, but the belt is missing. That's it. Do you see anything else in there? I have another bag here.
Something slimy catches your eye. A drab, long-sleeved shirt, olive-colored, appears from the food waste. Drip.
This is a military-type overgarment. No label or serial number. This is the kind of rib-knit shirt that's worn over light armor to conceal it in an urban scenario.
The rest of the rags are just kitchen variety waste. Just garbage.
All right. We should go to Gart again and ask if he knows who put the clothes in the trash. It could be as simple as someone from the hostel cleaning the yard. Or that one. I'd advise against confronting that force. Not really. All we know is the victim's clothes are in the trash. The lid was locked and his establishment had the key. It's just a small loose thread.
The lieutenant nods, then looks back into the trash container. It's just organic waste. What's this? A blue piece of plastic sticks out from the apple peels. It's shiny. Looks like the corner of something larger. A clipboard. A blue plastic clipboard with moist papers hanging from it. They look badly damaged, but you can still make out forms and notes.
Officer, is that your paperwork? It is. Look. The plastic has the RCM street grid on it. You've even got an autopsy form in there. If you don't mind me asking, how did this get in the trash? Well, lucky we found it. You should take stock of what remains, just to be sure some has not made it into the hands of the RCM's adversaries. Organized crime and the like. There might have been police secrets in your notes. It will also not hurt to start taking notes on the case. Anyway, where were we?
Some items, such as the ledger you found, are interactable. Go to your inventory and select the Interact tab.
The container sounds a muffled gong.
That's one thing off the list. I think we got it all.
It's the ledger you found in the trash. A pitiful cabbage of white and yellow papers hanging from plastic board, barely held together by a metal clip. This sad display is made complete by the faint smell of urinal cleaner. Right. What more do you need? A rubber condom stuck to the back. A graffito that says defeated. I think you catch the drift. They're not exactly white. They're yellowed in patches by sunlight and alcohol, and covered in dense blue handwriting. Once in a while, there's a red stamp that exclaims, "Case files commit to paper." The case files themselves are plenty. You count more than 100 sodden, crumpled up, earmarked pages falling apart in your hands. Work, strife, poverty, the Jamrock Quarter. These are handwritten logs of investigations dating back to January 51, this year. The exact number is hard to estimate due to missing pages and an odd naming convention. But there are at least 20, maybe 30 cases undertaken, not completed, mind you. It's the middle of March. You have attempted 2 cases a week on average. What do you mean? Is that all? Yes, it appears you employ a, shall we say, robust yet literary system. Each investigation has its case number written on the margins. Yet, still more tellingly, most are accompanied by a name, a title, one might say even. One that draws inspiration from snoop fiction and vespertine cop show staples. Yes, all caps. One is called The Next World Mural. Another, The Square Bullet Hole Murders. Others appear more light-hearted. The guy's on a couch in an unexpected location. It's going to take an effort to piece these case files together, but it can be done. Once you're done inspecting them up close.
You mean the alphanumeric? Officer, precinct, time of arrival at the scene? Good. That's a good one.
He understands you're concealing something, sire.
But do you also use the titular? Well, so do I. In our defense, officer, almost everyone in the RCM does. It's a holdover from the early days of the RCM, right after the revolution, when the organization had little idea how to do things. It persists in an unofficial capacity. Officers use these titles to refer to their work among themselves. Again, in your defense, I seem to have named one, the man with the hole in his head. That was a real person. His death was real. Still, I named it that, to amuse myself. I pray his loved ones never find out. Rail spiked through the head. He died. It was a workplace accident.
There is, for precisely one more. 15 pages near the end remain untouched by the damage. The checkered grid forms a structure of passages. Once all the tasks are accomplished, the case is complete. Sadly, the ledger only comes with an old, worn-down lead pencil. The ledger only comes with an old, worn-down lead pencil. It will do, barely. But the lieutenant looks at his blue notebook. 2 fat, shiny pens hang from the binder, like large-caliber bullets on. He is not really saying anything.
Know that I give this to you with resentment.
The tasks you've completed flow out of the blue oblong pen in a brash freehand uncannily similar to the rest of the letters. The wording comes easily. It's almost robotically simple. A language developed for mental rigor and simplicity. Inspect the victim's body. Interview the cafeteria man. It's not exactly poetry, but poetry would be out of place. A satisfying slash sounds across the paper. You're done, it seems to say. Things to be done and things already done. The composition of reality. This is an extremely useful tool for a detective of the citizens' militia.
No, actually. Any ideas? Great. That's great. That's actually what I was thinking too. The Hangman. Good, strong name. We have a very good name for it. I'm going to start calling it the Hanged Man. It's good we sorted this out. Huh? 2 complex cases to undertake is a lot, yes. You really have to push yourself. I would not suggest it, lest you start making mistakes. 2? That's a lot. I didn't mean to say you are making mistakes, by the way. That was presumptuous of me. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
Like a fan of gills, the checkered papers dry in your hand. The handwriting is extremely dense. The notebook is annual. It says 51 on what remains of its cover. A molten strap of cardboard. Everything prior to this must have belonged to a previous volume. You don't exactly close them, so much as distance yourself from the smelly papers. They're a little further from your nose now. Yes, you can piece them together using the alphanumeric code on the margin. It always begins with HDB 41, then date of initialization and time of arrival on the scene. Why yes, your precinct number is 41. Every last alphanumeric in the files begins with it. And these are your case files. It's safe to say HDB are your initials. Feeling isn't really the jurisdiction we're in right now. It takes about half an hour to piece one together, using the system you've devised. Where do you want to start? Not much has changed in the meanwhile. A bunch of sodden papers still sags from the clipboard. In the back, you see thin, translucent copier paper, some neon yellow. Then rip them from the binder and hand them out, according to type of form. 3. The topmost are misconduct fines. The middle ones are station calls. And the bottommost are field autopsy form. You don't have to be an intellectual giant to do police work. A dozen pages of thin copy paper, bright red in color. You see the parameters of a deceased human form waiting to be filled in. Age, sex, condition of internal organs. These are quite sinister in turn. They give a date and time for the person to appear at the specified precinct police station, all in a print so small it could be considered downright cute. A monetary penalization ranging from 20 to 250 real. Severe cases allow for 1,000 real, but that requires special paperwork. But they appear pleasantly vague. Yes, all that remains now is to fill those forms and hand them to people. Fines for wrongdoers, interview requests for bad guys, and field autopsies to dead guys. The rest of the stinking cellulose is much worse for wear. Being sandwiched between the board and the rest of the paperwork must have spared the... It's made of dark blue plastic, hard enough to beat someone to submission with. The edges are rounded, however. The U4 size board feels thick and heavy in your hand. Something rattles inside, ever so lightly. Is there a hidden compartment and something small inside? Light, made of paper or cardboard, permeables. It's not hidden per se. The compartment is made for permeable materials. The plastic shimmers like lapis lazuli, but it is not see-through. With your hands, you four-sized pages hang from the clip screwed to the top of the board. The two sides of the board appear slightly misaligned, like a drawer that's come off its... The slides snap back into place. It should be possible to just, without resistance or sound, the two panels move against each other. Two ticket stubs and a handmade postcard. Two octopuses are smiling, reaching their tentacles toward each other in the colored pencil drawings. The tickets permit access to the zoo in Revachol East. The aquarium costs extra. The words just crossed your mind somehow. You see two ticket stubs and a handmade card. Thin wax paper has been glued to a piece of cardboard. Sounds like leaves rustling when you pick it up. You see violet flowers. Familiar handwriting lines the inside of the card. A young woman in her 20s. There is care, effort, and a smile. Harry, it begins. You're already reading. I wanted to write you a letter so you can read it when you wake up. Maybe it will make you happy. Your fingers are sweaty. There is a sweat mark where they held the wax paper. The card lies next to the ticket stubs. It's slightly, ever so slightly, difficult to breathe once you've done. An aluminium block runs the width of the board, biting down on the paperwork. Its crocodile teeth are the only thing keeping the papers together. A regular pencil, the tip worn down to nothing, has been attached to the... A bunch of sodden papers sag from the clipboard in your hand. It's a sorry sight. It's just a racist mug. What's there to read here? Not much. Oh boy, here we go. What are you going to say about a broken, tossed-away mug that you dug out of the garbage? Understood. You're that kind of detective. Why don't you get back to your case? It's just a racist mug. What's there to read? But it will not happen. The mug talk is exhausted. There he still is, looking right through you with his white eyes. The body below is entirely dedicated to that corpse smell. There are several footprints in the mud, left by work boots. Anywhere from 6 to 12 pairs have walked here. Maybe more than 12. No. 8 pairs of boots have shuffled back and forth in the mud. 1. Standard work boot, steel reinforced toes, number 46. 2. Standard work boot, steel reinforced toes, number 44. 3. Hobnailed work boot. 4. Standard work boot, number 45 or 46. 5. Another standard work boot. 6. An aberration. Light as air, even pace, same make of boot, but number impossible to tell. Could also have been an adolescent. The gait is undeveloped. 7. The glowing outline of a standard work boot, number 46, but the imprints are twice as deep as the other. 8. And yet another standard work boot, number 44. There's an aberration in the pattern of the sole.
How many? I was pretty off then. I counted 20. I never got the hang of it. Hyperopia. Do you see anything out of the ordinary? Interesting. Let's name it the Old Soul. Someone operating a workbench with a pedal, like a joiner at the harbor. Or maybe a drummer? No, it's not. Forget I said it. We are not looking for a drummer. Perhaps it could be a driver. A driver would wear out the right shoe before the left. The accelerator is on the right.
He doesn't seem to hear you, looking south toward the traffic jam instead.
We should keep our eyes open around the traffic jam. See whether anyone strikes out as a potential suspect. Seems prudent. 200? Could it be the combined weight of two people, one carrying the other who's tied up?
He might be right. 200 kilograms of living weight is unlikely.
Possibly, yes.
But why?
Yes, they could have used a makeshift stretcher or just march him up to the gallows. Even easier to carry on a stretcher, or between two men. Anyway, it's for future consideration. What else? A woman? Or a kid? Understood. Anything else? A week, maybe? 7 days would fit the time frame provided to us by the caller, who reported the hanging.
It is not impossible.
I pulled last week's forecast for coastal Havashol. 7 days below freezing. The day before, the day of his hanging.
Correct again. Sub-zero temperatures would preserve the tracks in a good state. The commotion here could have taken place a week ago.
What do I think? A mob of people brought something heavy to the tree. One of them was carrying the victim. Then, after hoisting him up, they stood in a semicircle facing his direction. At first glance, this appears to be a lynching.
Indeed. They all stood in a row here and looked at the tree. Yes, everything fits so well. Carried him over, hoisted him up, watched him hang. This is easy. The lieutenant's eyes narrow. He's thinking to himself.
Either way. What else?
You see several packaged raincoats fill a low shelf beneath a display of croissants and juice bottles. The raincoats are transparent, except for the big Fritta slogan on the back. The packages are small, discreet, sloppily stacked, making them easier to take unnoticed. No need to worry about knocking over a display.